Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Laura and I am here today to talk about some books. I have collected a couple of books, quite a few books actually, over the last few months. I am trying to sort of be a bit more conservative with my shopping when it comes to buying books, but this is stuff that I've picked up over the last few months, probably starting in September. And yeah, stuff that I'm really excited to talk about and get into with you guys and just sort of show you what I've got. So I have a collection of both fiction and nonfiction books to talk about today. A lot of the nonfiction books I have already mentioned in the video I just put out, which I will link up above. But I'll start with those just to sort of get them out of the way. And then I will get into the fiction as well. So the first one on that list is How to Kill a Witch by Zoe Vendittosi and Claire Mitchell. And it is The Patriarchy's Guide to Silencing Women. I guess I can assume a lot of you kind of get what this is going to be about, sort of the use of witchcraft to subjugate women, and honestly as a reason to actually kill. Like I don't even know what the actual figure is, how many women were killed after being accused of witchcraft. But I can imagine that it is a large number, and it's a very sad and scary time in history that this is something that happened, and in so many different parts of the world as well. So I'm really interested to see what this goes into. I've read a ton of fiction about witchcraft and witch trials. One of my favorites being the Manningtree Witches by A.K. Blakemore, or MKAK. I'll put it on the screen so you can see it there. But I'm really interested in a non-fiction telling of that. So that is the first non-fiction book that I have picked up recently. The next nonfiction I also mentioned in my previous video, and that is Columbine by Dave Cullen. This is a nonfiction account of what happened at the Columbine school shooting in, I believe it was the 90s. And of course, obviously this is a really relevant topic. Even just this week there have been shootings, I think it was Bondi Beach in Australia, and there was another one. And it's just really unfortunate this is something that's become so prevalent, not just in the US, where I feel like you're hearing about a school shooting every week. It's just astronomical numbers of them, but also all over the world these things happen, and I think it's a really scary thing. And I feel like a lot of where I don't think necessarily Columbine was the first one, but it is one that is very known and was very shocking, I think, to people when it happened, of course. And when I was growing up, as I said in my previous video, I watched Bowling for Columbine in high school, and it really stuck with me, and I'm curious to see sort of what led up to that event, and see, hopefully this book delves into more about that. And yeah, I imagine it's going to be a difficult read, but I am very interested to read it, probably in the upcoming year. And then the next one that I did talk about as well was Stiff by Mary Roach, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. Basically this just follows a bunch of different stories about what happens to our bodies after we die, and I think a lot of things that I don't necessarily know about, from what I can tell from the blurb, what has happened and what cadavers have been used for. And I'm just curious. I like books like this a lot. One of my favorite books of nonfiction was also what's it called? It's by Caitlin Doughty, I think. How to Set a Fire. No, not that one. What is it called? I'm gonna put it up on the screen. It'll come to me probably later on. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory. That one. I really love that book, and I'm hoping this is sort of in the same vein as that. And if you have any recommendations for other books that are kind of like that or deal with similar topics like death and bodies and forensics and anything like that, I'm really interested in, so pop those in the comments. But a little turn from that is a celebrity memoir that is Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. This is a memoir that I've been wanting to read for quite some time. I am a big Matthew McConaughey fan. I think he's a great actor, a really interesting person. I mean, I don't know that much about his personal life or what he's like. Obviously, I don't know him, and I don't really, I don't know, he's not like one of those celebrities I'm gonna sit down and like watch an interview of, unless it like comes up on my feed or something, but even then I don't think I would, I don't know, pay attention to that. But I think I've heard really good things about this memoir, and I think maybe there's some interesting stuff in here, and it is a topic that, I wouldn't say topic that I'm interested in, but I do tend to read celebrity memoirs, and some of them are good and some of them are iffy, and I'm hoping this is one of the good ones. Hi Megs, you wanna say hi? This is Megs, my kitty. She loves to eat my books, right Megs? You don't want to read them, but you like to eat them. Okay, I'll let you go back down. All right, and then the next nonfiction is one that I briefly mentioned in my previous video, but didn't really talk about in much detail because it wasn't part of that list, but it is Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty by Patrick Radden O'Keefe. I have his other book on my shelf that I spoke about in that video, and I now have this one, and I'm just really excited to get to this. It, I think, is about a family who created, I guess, opioids and really foster the development of the opioid crisis in the States and in, of course, pretty much every part of the world. And I'm really intrigued by this. It reminds me a lot of The Fall of the House of Usher, the TV show. I think that family in the show is very strongly based after the Sackler family. And that was one of my favorite shows when it came out. I'm a big fan of, what's his name? His work. I can't think of names for anything ever. Anyways, I'll put it on the screen below, but he did Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass and Fall of the House of Usher, which is, those are some of my favorites. And I'm really interested to read this. So that is everything that I've gotten in terms of nonfiction. So now I'm going to go into fiction, and I'm going to start with what I've gotten secondhand. I do try to buy a lot of my books secondhand, but I haven't been as great for that this year. There's not as many secondhand books that I found that I really love in Winnipeg compared to like when I lived in the UK. I feel like this light is making me look, is that better? I feel like the light was making me look very pale and like a gleaming, shining light. Oh, it depends on like where I am. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, going into the light. Okay, I think we're good. Try not to move too much, but yeah, I try to make it a priority, but I'm still looking for places here that I want to check out, and if anybody has any suggestions and it's from the Winnipeg area or just spend time here, let me know in the comments. But the first one I picked up I'm really excited about, and that is Filth by Irvine Welsh. I really love this color of it with like the pig, and I like the yellow. It is unfortunately quite worn on the spine, just because if you have any yellow cover in sunlight, it's gonna fade. And I don't know, I kind of like that it has that sort of well-worn, old-timey look with the faded spine. But I have seen the movie for Filth, so I do know loosely it's about a cop who sort of descends into madness, and it's set in Glasgow, I believe. Or is it Edinburgh? I think it's Glasgow. It doesn't say, but in the movie I know it's Glasgow. But anyways, I am an author I've been really wanting to read. I have Trainspotting as well, but I just haven't gotten to it, which I think is kind of sacrilege considering my family's from the Glasgow area and I lived there. But yeah, he's just an author I haven't gotten to yet, but I really want to read his work, and I really like the movie of this one, so I'm excited to get this. And it was really cool to find it on the shelf. And then the next one I got secondhand is An American Dream by Norman Mailer. Of course, Mailer is known for being a like one of the all-time great American authors, and I just remember him mostly, which is kind of crazy, but from watching Gilmore Girls, and he goes to have lunch at Lorelai's. But I do want to read his work. I'm really interested in reading The Executioner Song, but I think this is one that comes before that and really influenced that one, so I'm really excited to read this. Stephen Rojak is a decorated war hero, a former congressman, and a certified public intellectual with his own television show. He's also married to the very rich, very beautiful, and utterly amoral Deborah Coughlin Kelly. But one night in the prime of his existence, he hears the moon talking to him on the terrace of a fashionable New York high-rise, and it is urging him to kill himself. It is almost as a defense against that infinitely seductive voice that Rojak murders his wife. In this wild, battering ram of a novel, which was originally published to vast controversy in 1965, Norman Mailer creates a character who might be a fictional precursor of the philosopher killer he would later profile in The Executioner's Song. As Rojak runs amok through the city in which he was once a privileged citizen, Mailer peels away the layers of our social norms to reveal a world of pure appetite and relentless cruelty. Sensual, horrifying, and informed by a vision that is one part Nietzsche, one part de Sade, oh my god, don't come for me, and one part Charlie Parker, an American Dream grabs the reader by the throat and refuses to let it go. So I'm very intrigued by this. I like anything that sort of revolves around killers or crime, basically. I mean, I really, really love American Psycho, and I'm a really big fan of horror, so it just kind of goes hand in hand with that. And yeah, I'm really intrigued, and I was really interested when I found this at the thrift. And then the last one on this list is a really great copy of this book that I found, and that is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is one of the old Penguin editions, but I just really love that cover. Fortunately, when I took the sticker off, it took some of the cover with it, so I'm still a bit depressed about that, but let's just pretend that's not there. And I honestly don't really know what this book is about. I just know that it's a classic, and I know probably has something to do with cholera, based, I'm using my deductive skills here with the title. And basically the Times says it is a powerful, poetic, and comic long-distance love story set on the Caribbean coast. For 50 years, a breathtaking beauty, now old and just widowed, has recoiled in pride and guilt from her secret lover. His desolate obsession has led him into an enigmatic existence in spite of his renown in business. One Pentecost, love found a new tongue with which to speak. Unique Marquez magic of the sadness and funniness of humanity. But I'm intrigued to read this book, and I really am glad that I found a secondhand copy of it that I can add to my shelf. And it'd be cool to find more of these Penguin ones with the orange spine, because I've seen people with quite large collections of them, and it's pretty cool to see. And yeah, speaking of Penguin editions, that is a nice segue into my next new purchase. I got this sometime in the beginning of October and didn't get around to reading any of them, so it is definitely some books that I want to get to, and these are the Penguin editions of horror, like classic horror. Yeah, Penguin Horrors is what it's called. Like, I ordered these specifically from the UK, which is how you can tell that I really, really wanted these in this specific edition so that they could sit on my shelf and look pretty. I don't know what that says about me, but sometimes the UK just does it better, and I don't live there anymore, so I can't skedaddle over the pond and just get the copies that I want. Before, I used to go back and forth sometimes to visit, and I could just get, ones in the UK if I like the cover better, but now I have to pay for shipping. But in this case, I felt okay because I'm a big horror fan, and I just fell in love with this collection when I saw some other people that I follow get it. So basically it is 5 books, the first being Classic Horror, an anthology. Just obsessed with that cover. And basically it's a collection of short stories, classics including like The Yellow Wallpaper and what else? Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Fall of the House of Usher, Body Snatcher, etc., etc. So a lot of the classics and a lot that I haven't read before. Obviously, I'm familiar with some of the stories, of course, but I'm excited to actually sit down and read this collection. The next one is Moths by Rosalind Ash. This one is, like moths to a flame, people are drawn to Dower House. To see the estate in dappled sunlight, to feel the breeze blown in from the river is to be forever in love. Among those caught in its spell are James and Nemo Boyce, who quickly buy it, and Professor Harry Harris, who becomes captivated by both the house and its new mistress. But an uninvited guest soon corrupts their paradise and quickly reveals the dark heart of the home. A tour de force of chest-tightening tension, Moths, one of the great Gothic horrors of the 20th century, is an extraordinary tale of possession and sinister seduction. So that is Moths. Again, the covers of these editions are just so brilliant. I honestly feel like they're collector's items, and that's how I justify my purchases. And then the next one I have is Pomegranate Seed by Edith Wharton. This is one I'm very excited to read because I did just get a pomegranate tattoo, so I feel like it goes hand in hand. And this one, known for writing some of the most incisive and elegant novels of the early 20th century, Edith Wharton was also a master practitioner of the ghost story, producing dozens of stories throughout her lifetime. Combining pristine prose with strange, suffocating atmospheres and a profound sense of the uncanny, this collection of her very best haunting narratives details spectral handwriting, isolated houses and lonely landscapes, and a husband with a terrible secret. So yeah, that is that one. Again, brilliant cover. The next is Benighted by J.B. Priestley. A group of travelers find themselves marooned in the Welsh countryside by torrential rains and buffeting winds. Desperate to find shelter from the storm, they flee to a crumbling mansion where they are reluctantly taken in by the cloistered, erratic femme family. Strange on first meeting, the secretive family reveals its true peculiarities only as the night unfolds. A Gothic treat shot through with the dejection anxiety of a world recovering from the horrors of the First World War, J.B. Priestley's Benighted is a razor-sharp blend of dark social satire and even darker dread. So that is this one. Nice green cover. And then the last is The Witch and the Priest by Hilda Lewis. Joan Flower is long dead when she first appears to Samuel Fleming, a priest plagued by doubts about her and her daughter's execution for witchcraft. Did he do all he could to rescue them from damnation? From beyond the grain, Joan reveals to him the spine-chilling tale of her seduction by Satan, her temptation of her own daughters to the devil's coven, her murderous sacrifices, and her final rejection by both heaven and hell. Yet Samuel still strives for a way to redeem her sins. Over their terrifying conversations, Samuel learns the ways of the witch's Sabbath and comes to the dark realization that Joan's soul may not be the only one in need of saving. Based on real 17th century witch trials in Lincolnshire, The Witch and the Priest is a masterpiece of historical atmosphere and psychological horror. So that is this one, and I think that would actually be a really great read to do at the same time as this, just to see how they coincide, since it is a fictional telling and a non-fictional telling. And if you're confused by that, I'm here to explain it to you, apparently. And then I am on to the last few, and these are ones that I've picked up just online over some time, and then I went and met Krampus yesterday and got some Halloween horror books, so that was exciting. But the first one I have is actually a fantasy, and that is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I do have a hard time recently with fantasy. I just think that a lot of the fantasy, or mostly romantasy, that I've read recently is just the same story told over and over and over and over. And while I really, really enjoyed it the first few times, it just gets dull really fast. And what makes me excited about this book is that it sort of seems very different from that, and it's had really, really good reviews, so I'm excited to check this out. And it is about The Raven Scholar is a masterfully woven tale of imperial intrigue from an electrifying new voice in epic fantasy. Let us fly now to the Empire of Orin, where after 24 years of peace, the reign of Bursun the Brusque has come to an end. In the dizzying heat of midsummer, 7 exceptional warriors, thinkers, and strategists compete to replace him. When one of them is murdered, it falls to Nima Kra, the Emperor's brilliant, idiosyncratic high scholar, to find the killer and fight for the throne. Nima believes she is alone, but we are here to help. All she has to do is let us in. If she succeeds, we will win an empire. If she fails, death awaits her, but we won't let that happen. We are the Raven, and we are magnificent. So it sounds really, really good, and I think I want to sort of delve into different avenues of fantasy, try to discover new things. I know there's a lot of variety out there in the genre, and I just think I've been down this narrow path of this one sort of subset of it, and I really want to delve out of that, and I think this would be a good way to start. And again, if you're a big fantasy fan, please leave me some recommendations. I want to try out some more different things. I've been reading Titus Groan recently, actually, and I really love that, and I think that's the sort of fantasy I'm kind of looking for at the moment. So yeah, give me some recommendations. The next one, vastly different from that, but still exciting, and that is Heart of a Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov. First of all, let's just admire this cover. It's amazing and weird, and I love that. And I'm a big fan of his other novel, The Master and Margarita. Hilarious, great piece of fiction. One of those books that really cemented my interest and love for Russian literature. And this is another one of his that I've been dying to read, just because I want to branch out and read more of his work and not just that one novel that he's most famous for. And this is a hilariously, brilliantly inventive novel by the author of The Master and Margarita. Tells the story of a scroungy Moscow mongrel named Sherek. Thanks to the skills of a renowned Soviet scientist and the transplanted pituitary gland and testes of a petty criminal, Sherek is transformed into a lecherous, vulgar man who spouts angles, inevitably finds his niche in the bureaucracy as a government official in charge of purging the city of cats. That makes sense then as to the name, and also very strange and sad, because I don't want any cats to be purged from any cities ever. I know this is political satire, so I'm sure there'll be some research I have to do to really understand the joke, I think, but that didn't prevent me from enjoying Master and Margarita, so I doubt it'll do that in this case. And then I have another book about murder, and that is Butter by Asako Yuzuki. This is about gourmet cook Minako Kaji sits in the Tokyo detention house convicted of the serial murders of lonely businessmen whom she is said to have seduced with her delicious home cooking. The case has captured the nation's imagination, but Kaji refuses to speak with the press, entertaining no visitors. That is, until journalist Rika Machida writes a letter asking for her recipe for beef stew, and Kaji can't resist writing back. Oh my god, every time I look at this viewfinder, I notice that I am gleaming like the sun, so I'm really sorry. Rika, the only woman in her news office, works late each night, rarely cooking more than ramen. As the visits unfold between her and the steely Kaji, they are closer to a master class in food than journalistic research. Rika hopes this gastronomic exchange will help her soften Kaji, but it seems that Rika might be the one changing. Do she and Kashi have more in common than she once thought? Inspired by the real case of a convicted con woman and serial killer, the Kankatsu Killer, Asako Yuzuki's Butter is a vivid, unsettling exploration of misogyny, obsession, romance, and the transgressive pleasures of food in Japan. So yeah, again, great cover. Sounds really creepy, right up my alley. You know how I like those murders, or you maybe don't, but you're gonna get to know it. Not in real life, just to clarify. The fictional ones, not the real ones. I ain't into that whole like true crime thing necessarily. I think it's okay in some cases, but I ain't watching Dahmer and that shit. But yeah, so that is Butter. And then I have the ones that I picked up at yesterday when I met Krampus. And for starters, I got one that I am quite nervous to read, I'm going to be honest, because I've heard some things about this being like one of the most unsettling books to exist. But we shall see how it goes. And that is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. Again, if you've read this and you want to warn me about what I'm in for, please do. Basically, a teenage girl is held captive and brutally tortured by neighborhood children. Based on a true story, this shocking novel reveals the depravity of which we are all capable. I don't know the details of the original case, and from what I can tell, it's probably for the best because that might deter me from reading this. But, yeah, I mean, I hope this just gives insight into what happened, and I guess we'll see. Yeah, speaking of true crime, I'm not above reading it, apparently. And then the last book, and one I'm very excited for and definitely going to read over Christmas, and that is Hark the Herald Angels Scream, edited by Christopher Golden. And this includes stories by Joe R. Lansdale, Scott Smith, Michael Cortia, Sarah Pinborough, Shannon McGuire, Jonathan Mayberry, Kelly Armstrong, and Josh Mallerman. Again, this is one of those cases where the cover really got me, and I just couldn't resist. And I feel like this winter I just want to read some creepy short stories over Christmas. So yeah, those are all the books that I have to talk about today. Do you have anything to add, Megs? Do you have anything to add? Look, say hi, look. Yeah, I'm gonna be internet famous. So yeah, those are all the books that I have picked up recently. If you like this video, give it a like, comment down below some thoughts on maybe what I've picked up or anything that you've gotten recently. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye.